Here I am making yet another PSA video, guys, and this one shouldn't be any kind of surprise, in all honesty, if anybody knows the inconsistencies behind PSA and how lenient they tend to be when it comes to grading big cards. I want to start off this video by just simply highlighting this Victor Wembanyama 2023-24 Prism Black 1 of 1 that came back a PSA 10, and it got a lot of buzz and popularity and hype and attention because it's Wemby. Obviously, it's a black 1 of 1 jersey color match 1 of 1, but it came back a 10. And you can simply see by this photo, and this was a very covered topic in the hobby for a little bit, it's clearly off-centered. This should not be a 10 based on centering alone. Everything else could be perfect on the card. The corners could be perfect. The surface could be perfect. The edges could be perfect. Damn, the centering on the back could even be perfect. And honestly, the centering alone should kill the card in terms of the grade. However, PSA still decided to gem mint this card. Why? Because it is a Victor Wembanyama Black Prism 1 of 1, and they wanted a 10. Their 10 to be associated and linked with this card. Now, I first off mentioned this card because I just want people to remember this. Maybe you didn't know about this, but yes, this did happen. But just keep this card in the back of your mind. So I came across I was actually watching Sports Card Radio, and they were talking about the Shohei Otani 2022 Finest Flashbacks, the 95 Finest Auto Gold Refractor that came back a PSA 9. Now let's just simply look at this card. Centering looks pretty good. Top to bottom, left to right looks pretty good. I mean, just by a naked eye, it doesn't look like that there's anything too crazy or too off with the card. I don't know about the surface or the edges or anything like that, the corners for that matter. But just generally speaking, let's just say this card is in great, pristine, perfect condition, considering the surface, the corners, and the edges. So let's just focus on the centering here, because that's what I'm inevitably getting to here. So the card looks pretty good, right? So here's a tweet from Grand Salami Sports Cards. And again, I saw this on Sports Card Radio, their live stream, and they were talking about this card and this subject here. Now, they made a tweet, Grand Salami Sports Cards, and they tweeted out to PSA, "Hey PSA, Nat Turner, I was really disappointed to get a 9 on this Otani auto that I subbed for a customer. It is one of the cleanest cards I have ever seen, and I was shocked it got a 9. We decided to resubmit Express to get greater notes, and it got a 9 again. Greater notes, front, top to bottom. Hate to break it to you, but there is zero chance this falls outside of the 60-40 tolerance you have listed in your standards for gem mint. So bummed out. Am I missing something here?" Now, I wanted to kind of dissect this tweet right here. This is one of the cleanest cards you have ever seen. I'm sure you've seen a lot of clean cards. It just so happens that this Otani is one of the cleanest cards you've ever seen. This Otani on-card auto. Okay. Shocked it got a 9. I mean, just all things considered, I would probably agree. Why did this card get a 9, especially how lenient PSA is? So then you decided to resubmit the card again to get the Express notes. Express to get the greater notes. Why wouldn't you simply submit it Express either way? Now, I've told people here at the shop that are submitting cards that are of value, pay the extra dollars, get the card back twice as fast. You don't want a multi-$100, multi-$1,000 card out at Beckett or CGC, or in this case PSA, for longer than it has to be. And if the card comes back a 10, which we're all thinking and hoping that that kind of card would do, then you're going to want to make sure that that card comes back, and you're not even going to think about the extra $50, $100, or however many extra dollars you have to pay in order to have the turnaround time doubled, tripled, Express, whether it's like the week turnaround time or like the 2 to 3 business day turnaround time, whatever. You guys get the point. So not only did they pay for the card to be graded once, they paid for the card to be graded twice to get the same exact result. And the greater notes state front, top to bottom in reference to the centering. Now, I will redirect you guys back to the card here. The centering on the top to bottom looks pretty good, right? Now, if you have a keen eye like myself, I'd like to think that I do, the more you stare at it and the more you focus, and now that it's brought to your attention, you can kind of see that, oh, you know what? Maybe the top and bottom are a little smidgy off. Now, it's nowhere near how off that Victor Wembanyama Black 101 is, but the more you look at it, the more you can be convinced, you know what? It's a smidge off. Does it deserve a 9? Does it warrant a 9? Oh, according to PSA standard, probably not, because like I said, they'll 10 just about anything. You take this to Beckett, it's not going to 10, just because Beckett actually cares about, the grades. There's zero chance this falls out of 60/40 tolerance, and I want to read PSA's Gem Mint standards. A PSA 10 card is virtually perfect card. Attributes include 4 perfectly sharp corners, sharp focus, and full original gloss. A PSA 10 card must be free of staining of any kind, but an allowance may be made for a slight printing imperfection. I thought a PSA 10 is a virtually perfect card. However, an allowance may be made for a slight printing imperfection. It's the inconsistency. My God. If it doesn't impair the overall appeal of the card, that's going to be subjective. The image must be centered on the card within a tolerance not to exceed approximately 55/45 to 60/40% on the front and 75/25% on the reverse, on the back side. Like I said, they will 10 anything. They don't even know what a PSA 10 is, this company. It needs to be a virtually perfect card, but I don't think a 75/25 center on the back card is perfect. I don't think a 60/40 is perfect. You might be able to get away with a 55/45, maybe. I mean, that's very, very tough to see with the naked eye. But I just can't get over it. An allowance may be made for a slight printing imperfection. Oh my God. Okay, so those are the standards for PSA. Now, Grand Salami Sports Card did follow up a day later after he made that original tweet on October 7th. He followed up a day later on October 8th. Update. Just got a message from PSA at PSA Card that this is going to be given a 10. Let's go. So, not only did you grade the card once, you graded the card twice. You called out PSA and Nat Turner. You complained about it, and they handed you a 10. I mean, it almost seems like if you don't get a 10, just bitch and complain and cry about it, and then therefore you'll be given a 10, especially when you're working with high caliber, high valued cards. You do this with any Joe Schmo kind of card, they're not going to care, especially if you're a nobody. Especially if you're not an influencer or someone that sucks up to PSA. Now, I don't know if Grand Salami Sports Cards sucks up to PSA like other influencers out there do. However, they clearly do PSA submissions. They probably have been for a little bit. There's probably a little bit of a connection there between Grand Salami Sports Cards and PSA. Whatever. PSA saw that, oh my God, here's this Otani autograph that we graded a 9 twice. And this might catch wind that it may make us look bad or impair our image. I mean, imagine if this Victor Wembanyama Black 1/1 came back a 9, like it probably should have. People still going to grade with PSA? Would that Wembanyama card still carry the insane value that it did at the time and probably still does to this day? That Otani card in a 9 does not have anywhere near the resale value that a 10 does. And what does everybody under the sun, the moon, and the stars tell you about PSA is that they have the most resale value. Now, I've debunked that theory before. I will happily do it in a separate video because I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be. But it is clearly not true, A. And B, PSA wants to hold that standard, that appointed status of having the most resale value. And they want to make sure that that card, that Otani card, fetches the most resale value, so people who come across other cards like that, Otani autographs, Judge autos, Stroud autos, pick any Wemby autos for that matter, any high caliber autos, they want to make sure that people know that they can submit it to PSA to get the quote unquote most resale value possible by their card coming back a 10. It's that simple. It is not that hard to recognize what PSA is doing in this hobby. Now, should this card have been graded a 10 to begin with? I mean, I have a very strict eye. I don't think so. I think it should have been a hypothetical 9.5 if PSA offered a 9.5. But since they don't, you got to bump it down to a 9, or at least it should have been. But their standards allow insane tolerance. Therefore, I think that the tolerance fits within the standards, and therefore this card should have been originally a PSA 10. I will not debate that, but the fact that you graded it once, it came back a 9. You graded it twice and you paid again and it came back a 9. Then you complained about it, tagging, exploiting PSA. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. We'll give it a 10. We'll give it a 10. I'm so sorry. And just, oh my goodness. I mean, there's so much lack of dignity in this hobby that if you don't get what you want, just complain about it and you will. If you have a high enough status or a high enough reputation in this hobby, you'll get what you want. And it seems like you'll get what you want more often than not with PSA, because I think PSA might be the only company that is giving this card a 10. Maybe like a CGC or an SGC might, but I know that Beckett wouldn't give this a 10. And that's arguably why Beckett is losing faith from collectors and flippers, because they don't hand out easy 10s. Ricky and I have talked about this on Hobby Talk. The amount of cards that Beckett is getting graded has decreased extremely so over the past several months, and CGC has just blown by them. SGC has gone past them, but PSA is clearly at the top. Why? Because you can get PSA 10s at a very easy clip. So hopefully you guys were able to take a thing or two away from this video. Sorry I didn't have the face cam. I'm in the process of upgrading some tech here and doing some things here in the office. But hopefully you were able to enjoy this video and get a thing or two out of it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. How do you feel about PSA? How do you feel about this guy submitting the card twice, complaining, putting PSA on blast, and then actually being handed a 10 by PSA? So I definitely want to know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Smash the thumbs up button, comment down below like I said, and of course hit the subscribe button. It's free to you, but it means so much to me. But that will do it for this video, guys. I've queued up an excellent video right here for you that I do believe is going to be excellent for your hobby endeavors. Hopefully I'll see you in that one.